Welcome back to another week of our Monday Mindset. This has been a really strong last week for a lot of you guys, and I am stoked with the progress you're making. And today's topic is a phenomenal one in that, we're, for a lot of you guys, you're 5, 6 weeks into this, and we are running into bits of adversity. We're running into travel. We're running into, you know, kids getting sick, new schedules, all kinds of things that we didn't expect to happen when we set out and had these intentions of having this perfectly crafted plan. So today's focus is about adaptability and how to really thrive while you're in a period of uncertainty and change. So we've built a really strong foundation to this point. Okay, we've begun implementing things. Like I said, we built this really well thought out plan. Well, things go sideways. Life happens. All of you are old enough to realize things tend to continually change. And if we do not adapt to that change, we are going to be very frustrated. So first off, what is adaptability? Well, adaptability is your ability to adjust your approach when things don't go according to plan. It's not about being rigid or set in your ways. It's about staying flexible and responsive to all of these changes. Life and your physical transformation, building muscle, losing body fat, it's not always predictable. You're not a machine where if we do XYZ inputs, then these outputs happen every time on this timeline, because there are so many variables going into this. You're a complex organism. So just understand that your physical transformation will not always be predictable, but adaptability lets you keep moving forward no matter what obstacles do come up. It takes me to my next point, and that is embracing change as a constant. Change is inevitable. You know this. If you look back 10 years ago at the world, the way it was and how it is now, hell, if you look back 5 or even 2 years ago, the amount of change that happens quickly, it's always evolving. And you are no different. Your life is no different. So the faster you learn to accept change as a constant, the quicker you can respond and adapt. The rigid break and the flexible bend. So be the man who can adjust his course of action without losing momentum. In fitness and in life, adapting doesn't mean giving up on your goal. It means finding new ways to achieve it. And I think that's an area where a lot of people get this wrong, is you set this perfectly crafted plan and you say like, okay, I have to do this exact thing. What happens when you're no longer able to do that? What happens when you plan every day for a 6 a.m. workout, but your kids are sick? Do you just throw up your hands and say, well, I can't do this anymore? No, we got to figure this shit out. So we need to adapt. Same thing when we're traveling on the road. Cool, you're thrown off your usual routine of nutrition. Well, time to adapt. And those who do that and do it quickly get really amazing outcomes. So embrace change as a constant. Takes me to my next one, which is shifting gears. How to pivot without losing focus. So sometimes your original plan's not going to work. Maybe you get injured, work demands most of your time, your family responsibilities shift a little bit. Adaptability means pivoting without losing sight of the bigger picture. It's about quickly recognizing when something isn't working and having the mental flexibility to actually change course. And this is where mental agility comes into play, because you can remain laser focused on the goal, but the path may actually have to change. It takes you to the next thing, which is power of letting go of control. This is one that a lot of guys, even myself, struggle with at times. We want to be in control of everything. We have this internal locus of control that we've talked about. We have to understand that, yes, we can control the things within our control. Some things are beyond our control, though. And adaptability requires you to let go of that need for control. So understand that you can't always dictate the circumstances or the environment, but you can control how you respond to the environment, how you respond to the circumstances provided you. It's not about forcing things to go your way. It's about flowing with what's happening and adjusting your actions accordingly. You are playing the best hand that you are dealt, and you keep doing that over and over, and inevitably you will win. In NLP, we've covered this before. So in neuro-linguistic programming, there's this really cool technique called anchoring. And we've discussed this in previous weeks. But anchoring is a technique that helps you guys recall a resourceful state of mind when you are faced with a challenge. So you can visualize or anchor yourself to a feeling of flexibility and openness and kind of that go with the flow. The next time something goes wrong, constantly triggering that mindset. So reminding yourself, okay, I have faced challenges before. I have had things go sideways before. I have adapted to these things before, and I have overcome them before. Think about your career. A lot of you guys are business owners, or like you're really high up on a corporate ladder. When you first went from your role 2, 3 roles ago to where you're at now, initially it was overwhelming. You're like, fuck, how am I going to do this? This is so much. Well, then you get into it. You start figuring it out. You figure out what works, what doesn't. You course correct. This is no different. But a lot of people get frustrated with health and fitness, and it's very easy to throw up our hands and say, like, I don't want to do this anymore, because you guys aren't getting a paycheck for doing this. It's a lot easier to consistently show up to work because you have to show up to work. You have to pay bills. So you will figure shit out. Well, let's take that same approach with our health and fitness. So let's anchor in that flexibility, understand that we can adapt to any situation, and by doing so, it enables us to get the outcome that we actually desire. Now, this also brings me to another technique, imaginal revision. This is actually a really cool one, in that it is the ability to look at a scenario where maybe things didn't go your way. Maybe you said, hey, I'm going to lose X amount of weight by this date. And the date comes and goes, and it didn't happen. Maybe you set out to adopt a new habit of, I'm going to train 4 days a week for the next 6 weeks, and it doesn't happen. What do? Do you just dwell on it and feel like shit? No. Let's think about it. Let's visualize going through that exact situation again. Let's visualize us doing it correctly. What would we have changed? What would it have looked like if we got the exact outcome we wanted? How could we have showed up differently? How could we have adapted? Play that image through your head, and you'll find a solution. And now we have something to act on in the future. So I've said this before to you guys, but lessons not learned will continue to repeat themselves until the lesson is learned. Imaginal revision allows us to learn those lessons, take the learning from it, and apply it to the future. So it's a really powerful tool, and I use this one a lot with work. I'll look at, hey, what was the success I had? How do I repeat that? What was the failure I had? How do I never repeat that again? What lesson can I pull from it? And doing that with your health and fitness is a superpower. Takes me to the next one, which is staying grounded in your why. You hear, what's your why all the time, almost ad nauseum, and people just blindly say that. But when I say why, like those deep intrinsic reasons of why this is important to you, and not I want to be healthy for my kids, like deeper than that even. Deeper than I want to lose 20 pounds so I feel I'm healthy. Nope. We want to get to the root of it. And we've covered this, at length in previous weeks. So continue hammering. Why is this important? What does this mean? What does this say about me if I follow through with this? What would need to be true? What are the positive side effects of making this change? Get crystal clear on that, where you can elicit an emotional response from yourself. That is when you have a why. And ask yourself, what's more important? Sticking rigidly to a plan because you arbitrarily said that's what you're going to do, or actually achieving the result that you want? I see a lot of people become hyper fixated on, hey, like I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. every day, and I'm gonna make sure I run 4 days a week, and I'm gonna make sure I hit my targets perfectly for 10 weeks in a row. Great, and then what? And what happens if a day goes wrong? What do? Because if we have the expectation of perfection, you're never gonna measure up to that standard. So let's, instead of getting married to some arbitrary system, let's focus on the outcome we want and pursue course corrections as needed to get to said outcome. So don't get married to the plan, get married to the actual process of getting there, adapting along the way so you can actually get the outcome that you want. The goal remains the same, the strategy can evolve, and it will evolve. I will tell you as your coach, we are gonna continue changing shit for each of you guys because all of you are at different phases. We also wanna build resilience through adaptive habits. So we talked about resilience last week. Resilience and adaptability go hand in hand. One way to cultivate adaptability is through small daily habits, building routines that allow for flexibility so when unexpected changes happen, you're not thrown off course. So an example is if your workout schedule gets interrupted, we want to make sure you have backup exercises you can do anywhere. Like, cool, you're on the road this week? Well, I guess we're banging out push-ups and going for a run when we're at the hotel. I guess we're going to make sure our step count goes higher than usual, okay? We don't have to do everything exactly the same. Oh, you don't have the same equipment available to you? Well, let's just make do with what we do have, okay? Progress, not perfection. So I cannot stress that enough, by the way. Um, Doing what you can where you are with what you have. I have seen so many people go off the rails because travel or holidays or kids, because they couldn't stick to their ideal scenario they had in their head. And honestly, it's a lazy, convenient cop out. Okay, you guys are all way too successful and way too driven to let something like, oh, I'm on the road, so I guess I can't do anything, throw you off course. It's there's no excuse for it, and I want you guys to be okay with doing what you can and not being perfect. That is going to actually drive progress. And that takes me to my next point, which is avoiding perfectionism. A big obstacle to adaptability is desire for perfection. Perfectionism kills progress because it makes you rigid and unwilling to change when things don't go exactly as planned. From a business perspective, think about the very first year you opened. If you were running the same tactics, the same marketing strategies, the same fulfillment, the same services as when you first opened, if you were doing all that exactly the same today, if I had to guess, you'd be running a really shitty business. You have adapted, you have learned, you have improved. Same thing happens with our health and fitness. We're always looking to evolve, okay? So we're not sticking to the perfect plan. We're looking at the outcome and what's going to be optimal to get us there. So aim for progress, not perfection. Adaptability is about moving forward in whatever way you can, even if it's not perfect. So in summary, because we're getting to the tail end of this here, this week is about embracing adaptability. It's about understanding that you don't have control over everything, and that's okay. The goal remains the same, but the way you get there might change, and that's where strength lies. Being flexible, staying grounded in your why, and trust that every pivot that you make is bringing you closer to your goals. I will see you next week, gentlemen. Get out there and crush it. Take care.